Welcome everyone to the Build More, Click Less webinar brought to you by Arkus and Appiphony. Thank you for joining us. I'm Andrew Fretwell. We'll do introductions momentarily to everyone on this call. But again, this is a very busy week. People are catching up after the long weekend, especially those of you who are working at housing organizations, Habitat for Humanity affiliates. You never get a slow week to begin with. So we really appreciate you spending some time with us here today. Before I move on, a couple of housekeeping items before we move into things. You will notice that there's a question and answer panel to the top right of the window here. You can communicate with us by asking questions there. Those questions are only visible to us, the host, so don't worry. You don't need to publicly put your question out there if you're a little self-conscious about it. We're going to monitor those questions, and we're going to set aside some dedicated time for Q&A towards the end. The chat function that you see here, which our marketing manager Brooke just posted in, it is a read-only function, and our behind-the-scenes team will be sharing resources throughout the way Brooke just did. So if you want to communicate with us, just use that Q&A panel. A couple things to remember. We're going to be sending out the recording of this to everyone after the call, so don't worry. You don't need to take notes. Don't worry if you feel like you missed something. Just be present, be in the moment, and you can use that recording for reference to your heart's delight following this. Speaking of being in the moment, you may every now and then feel like you or someone else is a few moments behind. Don't worry, that is not unusual. There just might be a little bit of a lag when it comes to the screen share. So don't be alarmed, or don't have any anxiety that your perception of linear time is going out the window here. It's very, very normal on these webinars. Finally, if you want to contact Arkus, you can send a request in the question panel. You can fill out our contact us form on our website, or you can email me directly. And if you want to chat with Appiphony, George will share how to get in contact with Appiphony as well. So now that we have that out of the way, thank you again for joining. What we really hope over the next 56 minutes we can accomplish here is help you better assess and understand how your file management system and your CRM can not just be operating in parallel or not be operating in mild conflict, but can actually be living in a synergetic, cohesive environment together. And understanding the benefits of what that means in terms of a direct integration and a direct bi-directional connect between your file storage system and Salesforce, what that can do with you, and how that can inform a strategy for a better CRM and better drive management. And we're going to help actually you visualize all that later on here. And we hope that that can really help you have better conversations about this moving forward as you consider how you do more building and less clicking. So who are we? Well, I'm Andrew Fretwell, Director of Sales at Arkus. I'm also a former nonprofiteer, fundraiser and program officer, the first 8 to 10 years of my career. I also am an 8-time certified Salesforce consultant and expert. On the sales team, I lead our Habitat for Humanity practice, and I do that in partnership with Zoe Waldridge, who is an engagement manager and delivery team manager here at Arkus and leads our Habitat consulting work. And we are very honored to be joined by George Kennedy, the CEO of Appiphony. So a little bit about Arkus. Before we get into the meat here of understanding how we can help hopefully make your life a little better here. First, I want to apologize to everyone if I'm talking fast. I am broadcasting to you from the former 3rd largest city in America, Brooklyn, New York. So as a New Yorker, I'm a fast talker. I'm also just so anxious for you guys to see the magic of Appiphony and Salesforce here. I'm kind of racing through the background. But we at Arkus, we've been in this field here of Salesforce nonprofit organizations for about 15 years. 2025 is going to be the year we complete our 3,000th Salesforce project. There's about 80 of us. We have a CRM practice, a marketing cloud practice, a Slack services practice, and a data services practice, all in one. We've got people all over the country. Like I said, I'm here in Brooklyn, New York. Zoe is over in Kentucky, just across the river from Cincinnati, and we got people in every time zone and every longitudinal and latitudinal sector of the contiguous United States here. We have a really, I would say, of these numbers you see here, I'd say like 80 to 85% of our projects and clients are nonprofits. And we have a very large footprint across the housing, affordable housing world, especially in the Habitat for Humanity affiliates network. So that is Arkus. And now I'm going to throw it over to my good friend George to talk a little bit about Appiphony.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it. And want to say thank you to the Arkus team for inviting us to participate in this webinar. And thank you to everyone in the audience for taking the time to join us today. So a little background on myself. I've been in the ecosystem approximately 20 years. I launched one of the first apps on the App Exchange, and then shortly thereafter founded Appiphony to help other companies build apps. We're based out of Chicago, Illinois, and we're 45 people, mostly engineers, designers, architects, QA folks. And we have built and support many of the top apps on the App Exchange. But we're also a ISV partner, and we have 4 apps on the App Exchange currently today. Drive Connect, which is a Google Drive integration, Share Connect that we'll be talking a lot about today, which is our SharePoint integration, Merge Connect, which supports document generation, right? Taking data from Salesforce and turning it into things like Word documents, PDFs, and PowerPoints, and eSign Connect, which is a e-signature integration with DocuSign that works with all our other apps. We're also a Salesforce Ventures-backed company. So that's a little background on us. And next, I'd like to talk to you about kind of what our direction is from a product perspective. So really what we're focused on, and this will be a large part of our conversation today, is solving the inherent challenges around files and working with files through various different workflows within Salesforce. And we're focused on having a mission of building an entire suite of applications around that. So I've already talked to you about Share Connect, Drive Connect, Merge Connect, and eSign Connect. In the next few months, we'll be launching Experience Connect, which is our solution to be able to allow you to have your end users that are using Experience Cloud sites interact with files that are living not just in Salesforce, but in SharePoint or Google Drive, as well as Parse Connect, which is sort of the inverse of Merge Connect. It is going to allow you to take PDFs and convert them into Salesforce records, extract data out of PDFs into fields within a Salesforce record, and make it incredibly easy to set that up and configure it. And we have some technology behind the scenes that we call Flex. It's our file linking exchange technology that allows all our products to be able to share files and seamlessly work with one another. So if you upload something to Share Connect and then you want to go ahead and parse that or send it out to e-signature, Flex makes that all very simple and seamless. Let's jump ahead and talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. And so over the last couple of weeks, we've been working really closely with Zoe here at Arkus. She's built out an incredible demo around managing home applications. And really the focus of the demo is going to be around how can you create an applicant 360 view? How can you get a full sense of what is in an application and all of the files related to it? And why is this important? And the reason is that often organizations struggle scaling their workflows, scaling how they support their end customers, because all of their data lives in Salesforce, but all of their files live in another system like SharePoint. Historically, what we've seen happen is people typically establish some kind of file management system like a SharePoint or a Google Drive. Culturally, they come to agreement on what their various folder structures are going to be. and then they start creating those folders and uploading documents into it. Then later they introduce Salesforce, and that's where all the data about their borrowers in this case, or applicants, I should say, lives. And sometimes some files get uploaded into Salesforce. Other times people will put files into their SharePoint. And next thing you know, you're trying to look at an application and you can't actually find where the files are related to that particular applicant. So what we're going to talk about today is how ShareConnect can solve this problem by tying these two systems together. And what it allows you to do is actually have ShareConnect drive the creation of your folder structures from the creation of your records in Salesforce. So if an application record is created, you should automatically then have a folder created in SharePoint to drive that, the creation of that applicant folder process. And then any kind of subfolders you would need underneath that, you can also create through the magic of Salesforce Flow. And then when people come to your site to go fill out a form, an application, and actually upload files alongside that, those files should automatically go into those folders that get created as the applications are submitted, and then also get linked back to those application records in Salesforce. And Zoe's going to walk us through all of this. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to talk about the stack that we'll be talking about today. So it's a Salesforce org, and we've set up a digital experience site. And the good news with digital experience sites is that if you have Salesforce CRM, those are included, and there's no additional cost to those. And we'll also be talking about an organization that's using SharePoint in this instance, along with our ShareConnect app to integrate all of this. But just please keep in mind that if you're a Google Drive organization, everything that we're going to show you today is also possible with that as well. We have a sister product to ShareConnect called Drive Connect, and it has all the same type of capabilities that Zoe's going to be reviewing with you here in just a moment. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Zoe so we can take a look.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, so let me pull this up. And so I've had the pleasure of working with Habitat affiliates over the last 3 years, and it's been very rewarding in so many ways. And it's been very interesting learning how all the different affiliates are unique, but also surprising that a lot of, even with all that uniqueness, there are several, struggles or, challenges to overcome that are the same across everyone, right? And one of those is handling file management and receiving those, and just managing the amount of time it takes to bring in all that information, save it where it needs to go, make sure it's labeled how it needs to be, and then retrievable later throughout the application process. So in our demo today, we're going to be starting off at this Experience Cloud site. And to reiterate what George said earlier about licensing and costs, if you're using Salesforce CRM, you can build public sites without any additional licensing fees or agreements with Salesforce. Now, we'll give the caveat that it's kind of free like a puppy, right? It's still something that you have to build and maintain, but it is something that you can own, and it's connected directly to your CRM. So we're looking at our public Experience Cloud site right now, and I'm going to show you 2 main functions that I think will hit pretty close to home. The first is that first application of applying for a home. So we have our button here, and I have an application started over here. And we have our form, just a smaller version, but a similar version of what's commonly seen for that initial interest form or getting that engagement started with an affiliate or with any affordable homeownership program. We see here we have Guy Fieri. I'm required to say that we are using Guy Fieri's name and some other fun names without their, not actually them, it's just the homage of them, right? But in this instance, we have Guy Fieri applying for a home, and he's filled all this stuff out. And we want to, at the start, go ahead and collect his ID and social security card, because we know that this is vital to moving his application forward. And yeah, having it right at the start is going to make it easier. So I'm going to start by attaching his driver's license. Let's see here. And then I'm also going to attach, just say done, the social security card. So by doing this, we are taking out any kind of like middleware item of, submitting a form, having that document live somewhere, then move somewhere else, then get dropped somewhere else, and backlinks and all that stuff. We are taking in those files directly at the form, and then we're going to send them to SharePoint and actually make it a little bit cooler than that. So I'll show you once we submit this application. Thank you for your application. You're welcome. All right, so let's go over here, and I'm going to refresh our intake applications. So you see we have our current ones. Let's refresh it, and now we see Guy Fieri's intake application here. And we have all of his intake fields, but we also have these nifty SharePoint links to the right. And so this actually, when we submitted Guy's application, it in SharePoint created a parent folder that is for his entire application. And you'll notice that it's named like the application. We're able to update that name as the application travels. So once Guy is in the approved state, the SharePoint folder will also reflect that. But we know that we're going to be taking in a lot of different documents from our applicants. We're going to highlight on partnership hours today, but there's also all the financial information, pay stubs, things of that sort. We can create these subfolders automatically and kind of give places a place to live right from the start. So we submitted our application, and we can see our driver's license. We can actually open it right up in Salesforce. Ah, great. Send us his driver's license. Perfect. Let's check out his social security card as well. Yep, that looks great. Cool. So, and if there's ever an issue here, if you say they submitted the wrong item, you can add new items to the SharePoint file structure directly from Salesforce. So you're not having to switch between platforms. To do that, you would just go to New, File, Upload, selecting your file. So I'm just going to select another one to upload here. I'm going to do another version of that. You can even rename it and then get to the record. And then that's going to do the same thing as submitting it through the form. It's attaching it to the record, it's sending it to SharePoint, and then saving it within that file structure. Perfect. All right. So let's switch over to partnership hours. So let's take a look at a placed applicant, or not placed, sorry, applied. And we're actually going to look at Bobby Flay today. So Bobby Flay was recently approved for a home and is working through his application process. And we need to collect his partnership hours. So it's pretty common that we would have agreements with the applicants to do community or education hours as part of their application. And this allows us to send Bobby a template email if you'd like, or really all sorts of ways you can do this, but provide Bobby with a specific link where he can submit his own partnership hours that are related to his application. And I can show you that here. There we go. So here's the email that gets sent. So it just lets them know, here's a friendly reminder to submit your partnership hours. And we're going to use that same kind of functionality of the application, but since Bobby has a special link, he can go here and see his hours that he's submitting for partnership. So it's pretty common. I've noticed that partnership hours are going to have some kind of element of, a signature is needed, some kind of, documentation that's saved. So this addresses that too. So he can go in and say for August, I did, let's just say 5 on these, all, right? We're going to upload our file. And so any of those signatures that we need to have are on deck. And we can also reference that document to make sure that these calculations are correct, that the right numbers were put in. So we're going to say submit, thank you. And I'm going to go back to Bobby's application and reload the page. And we can now see that he has submitted one partnership hour submission, a total of 15 hours, and we have that submission here. And we have that partnership hours folder, which we can click into there, or by going directly to partnership, we'll see that link pop up and be able to look at that document right away. And so, looks like there was a keying entry. So that's where we could go back and update that, that record to reflect the actual calculation. And say you wanted to have an approval process, it would be fairly easy to add an approval mechanism to this record that says, yep, we've reviewed this partnership hours entry, and we say that this is good to go. So to recap a little bit, we have this issue of we have lots of documents to manage because there's a lot of different things going on, right? It's a very encompassing program engagement. So we have a lot of documents that are needed for all the different applications and loans and things. So by introducing Share Connect, we're able to bring Salesforce CRM and SharePoint together in a really dynamic way. That's going to save a lot of time. It's going to get things put where they need to be right from the get-go and label them cleanly, so you're not having to worry about it. And then with the added use of the public experience site, we're able to bring that opportunity to submit record or to submit documents directly to the end user and then collect it automatically from there. Again, saving time so you're not having to download from email or scan in copies as they come in through in-person drop-offs. So yeah, that was my main demo there. I'll pass it back to you, George.
Perfect. Thank you, Zoe. That was awesome. Thank you so much for putting that together and running us through that. Right. So before I hand it over to Andrew, I just thought I would run through again what we just saw. So just as a reminder, it was Share Connect, right? Working in conjunction with Microsoft SharePoint and Salesforce CRM, all through the digital experience site that Zoe set up. And like we were saying, you could do the same thing with Drive Connect in Google Drive if Google Drive is your file storage system. We offer trials for both of these. So if you just go to our site, appiphony.com, and go to products, you'll be able to see them and just go ahead and install trials. We even offer in-app purchasing and 25% discount for all nonprofits. But the real key is for you to be successful at this, to be able to put all this together, you need a partner like Arkus. This is one of these things that don't attempt it on your own. And so Andrew is going to talk a little bit about that and how Arkus can support you around assembling a system very similar to this. Andrew, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, and I also went backwards instead of forwards. So thank you, George. Yeah, so before we do that, quick poll question. What is your file storage platform? Are you a SharePoint shop, Google Drive, Box, something else out there that's really cool that we don't even know about yet? Let's see what folks are using here. It's so exciting watching these results come in. Give a few more seconds. All right, I'm gonna do a big suspenseful countdown here from 10 if you haven't voted yet. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, I'm gonna close this out. Let's see our results here. We got from what I saw there, it looked like I don't know if I can actually like if you can see it, but it looked like we had about 8 to 9 Google Drive users and 5 or 6 SharePoints. So a nice split there between Google Drive and SharePoint. And I will say, for those of you using who are using Google Drive, there we go. 8 Google Drive, 5 on SharePoint. Those of you using Google Drive, don't worry. Google Drive and Appiphony are great. We at Arkus are a Google Drive shop. We use Appiphony, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, the connection is incredibly strong. So thank you for participating in that poll. Now, before you implement, as George just said, do not attempt at home. There's the actual installation is, I would say it's like the tip of the iceberg. Once you get there, it's not very hard, but you got to get there the right way, right? So there's a few steps that we recommend going through. One is making sure that you're being really intentional in choosing the right product there. As George shared before, there are a number of tools that Appiphony provides that can make life easier for you. And we say choose the right product. It's not just, are you Google Drive or are you a Microsoft SharePoint shop? But as you can see, there are things like integrating e-signature, document generation, all that. So when we say choose the right product, it's really actually about choosing the right starting point, right? It's about what is the bottleneck that is holding up the most work here that can be addressed, right? Because when we start with that, that's always the best place to be starting, right? So it's choosing the right product, the one that both matches your tech stack and matches your business needs. Once we've identified that, then there's a change management step here, which is about getting user buy-in. Now, luckily, with Appiphony Products, this is usually a very easy step because this is something that makes life easier, right? But people need to understand that you're adopting something new in order to make their life a little easier here. And they will adopt it with far more enthusiasm if they understand which particular headaches are about to go away forever, right? So getting your user buy-in as you're going through this process, and then really choosing the right partner here. And just when I say choosing a partner, it's not just choosing an implementation partner that understands Salesforce. It's not just choosing an implementation partner that understands Appiphony, but choosing an implementation partner that's a good match for you, not just organizationally, but also interpersonally. Because ultimately, people have to put these tools into place together, which leads us to our final piece here, which is as you are getting ready to install this, make sure you've got the right project lead on your side, right? Someone who understands the needs of the end users, someone who understands what the basic architecture of your Salesforce is, someone who understands what the basic organization is of your folder and file management system, right? That way that person can provide the right context so that when we are making the types of little tweaks here and there to really bring powerful efficiency to your processes, that we have all the relevant information in order to do that. Once you've done all that, these things just fly by and they're great. Okay, that was our presentation here. Now we've got a nice lively group asking plenty of questions. So let me head over to the question panel here. And by the way, if you haven't submitted a question, that's cool. You can keep doing it. We're just going to answer the questions here until people feel like they've got the information they need. So first question is, where does the housing application linked on the website live? What is the backend host for this? Zoe, I think I'll direct this one to you.
Yeah, so to make sure I understand it was, where does the background, like the data live for the application, or?
Where does the housing application linked on the website live?
It would live in Salesforce, if I'm understanding the question correctly. Yeah, so we would have the application. Yes, okay, cool. We would have the application fields in Salesforce, and then you would have that individual application record for each applicant.
Now, Zoe, I'm going to ask my own follow-up question to that.
Yeah.
Typically, when we're working with housing organizations and Habitat affiliates, are those applications things that are out of the box? Are they something that we custom build for them? Or do they tend to be something that is purchased through a managed app? And if so, what are those managed apps?
Great question, Andrew. Appreciate you asking. So it's pretty common to see Habitat affiliates using Homekeeper. It's pretty popular, and this would integrate with that. We would just surface those questions that we would want in a form on an experience site from the Homekeeper, fields, and then save them related to those records created within the Homekeeper suite of objects. So yeah, it would go with that very well. Yeah, but you can also build it on your own. Yeah.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know what a managed app is, that is a set of custom objects, fields, automations, reports, and processes that have been created and are ready for installation upon their purchase. So they're just customizations of Salesforce that someone has created and is upkeeping, which is why there's usually an ongoing licensing cost for those, and Homekeeper is one. All right, next question. Is there a way to request specific documents, i.e., I need the August, September Chase, number 00 whatever bank statement? is there a way to request specific documents like that?
My gut instinct is yes. I would need to, sorry, I feel like I'm getting caught up in my head a little bit there, but if you're able to search within your SharePoint or Google Drive environment, then being able to search for those names would be just the same. And I think it would be about naming those documents appropriately so that you can search for them later. As far as within Salesforce, you would also be able to look through the file folders there, and then we should be able to enable that for search as well. George, I don't know if you know that one off the top of your head.
Yeah, and I feel like this question could be interpreted in a couple different ways. Also, you can go ahead and set the upload buttons on your form and have specific labels associated with them, and then have those files, like Zoe demonstrated, get put in particular folders within Salesforce, like we showed with the partnership hours. Files that got uploaded went into the partnership hours folder in SharePoint.
Great, thank you. All right, next question. I am brand new to Salesforce. God, I love to start with that question. I am brand new to Salesforce. Can you show me how I would email a document to a grant application rep or lender or whatever from where it was stored in Salesforce? Now, I'm not going to ask you, Zoe, to actually show it, but could you, in a follow-up to this, show that? Yeah. Or could you explain it?
George, are there any things to know about Share Connect?
Well, I'm happy to speak to that one. This is a feature that we built into Share Connect and Drive Connect. So we built our own email component. And the reason that we did it, and we mirrored exactly how Salesforce's email component looks, is so that you could pick a document that was not living in Salesforce, but was living in SharePoint or Google Drive, and attach it to an email and then send it out. And so in the background, we're sending that email out of Salesforce, but we're going to retrieve that document from the external source, attaching it to it, and then sending that out. So that's definitely a feature within the app, and we've made that very easy.
Yeah, and one thing I'll also add on to that, because I'm just using the context here that this is someone who's brand new to Salesforce. If you're inside a contact record, you can email that person from inside the contact record, right? So if in the contact record, you can see their files because of Share Connect or Drive Connect, there's no reason that you can't also write an email directly from inside that contact record that is connected to your Outlook or Google Drive, right? So generally speaking, you can send emails directly from contact records, and with Drive Connect, that means you can see files. So you're looking at Guy Fieri's contact record, you see he's missing, a W-9, you're in the contact record, you hit the button, there will be a button, and you can just directly write an email from there to Guy Fieri saying, hey, I'm looking at your files here, looks like we still need a W-9, please provide by the end of the week. And then when you press send, by the way, that's going to show up in your Outlook or Gmail outbox, right? So again, this is about creating really clear, open lines of vision between your different systems. Okay. Next question. Let me get back to this. Okay. Someone said, I think you said it, but is the SharePoint to Salesforce sync bi-directional? Example, if we have a staff member upload a file directly to a folder in a SharePoint library that uses Share Connect, will it be visible in Salesforce?
So since we are linking those folders to the appropriate records in Salesforce, you're able to open up that folder and actually see the contents of it from within Salesforce, and then actually select files from it and attach it. So you do have access to those folders immediately just by virtue of those documents being dropped into the folder from the SharePoint or Google Drive side.
Great.
They upload it directly into SharePoint though and see it in Salesforce?
Yeah, that's one of the core features. So if you go to the new button on the component, you can select the file, upload it, and then it'll get put into the SharePoint folder and automatically link back to the record. Yeah, and that's what usually people are thinking in the context of the record. Like what I have found personally is, I used to go into Google Drive a lot. That's what we use internally. Dig through all those folders, find that customers folder, go to the subfolder, and then maybe drag something into it. But now, since I spend most of my life in Salesforce, it's way easier to search for that record, get to it, and then just click upload, and I'm uploading it directly there. And with one swoop, I'm linking it to the record, and I'm getting it into Google Drive.
And George, if I was, from my own computer in Google Drive uploading a file into that folder, you would be able to see that from your view inside of Salesforce too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Question, and this goes back to I think an earlier question about where the back end of the application is living. Question is asked: is using a digital experience site required, especially for forms where files are submitted? We currently use Form Assembly for all of our form and file upload submissions. So that's for applications, partnership hours, etc.
With the setup that we had, we did use the Experience Cloud setup. It wouldn't be required though. You could have it send to Salesforce and then go through the Share Connect or Drive Connect process. And it would be similar to other document like management connectors, with the added benefit of the dynamic naming and the more accessibility of the different subfolders and details within.
And maybe the one thing I would add is we have a scheduled flow action that if you're using something like a form assembly and you're filling your home applicant is filling out the form and then uploading the documents there, it's going to end up with a record in Salesforce, and typically those documents attached to the record. And then our scheduled flow action can grab those documents and automatically move them into the folder that we automatically created when that record was first inserted, if that makes sense. That way we can save your Salesforce file storage cost and make sure that everything is getting moved on a regular basis to SharePoint or Google Drive.
Zoe, a question, and this relates back to like applications, whether it's form assembly or living, inside of Salesforce itself. Question was asked, how could you actually customize the application? Can the affiliate customize it themselves, or is that something that they meet with us here at Arkus to do? Is it an option at all? How would that work?
So if we're doing kind of what we showed with the screen flow element or part of it, I would say you'd need a partner with that, or a dedicated person on the team who has the background knowledge of how to implement and maintain those systems. There are a lot of ways to customize it, though, absolutely. One of the big things that we worked on was that naming of those files as they come in. So each of those upload buttons actually has information behind it that says, hey, this button is used for an ID. So we're going to label it as an ID, and then we can track it that way through the system. And George, I'd be curious what your answer to that would be as well, like just from like the Share Connect or Drive Connect only portion of it, if you feel like that would need a partner, or if that's something they can kind of plug and play.
I would say that part's going to be pretty plug and play. Yeah, we've tried to make it very simple to go ahead and configure that.
Yep. So to answer the question, for modifying the application itself and what's displayed to the end user, that's something I would want to have a partner with, just to make sure that everything's set up correctly and you're, guided through the choices that you need to make. As far as having Share Connect or Drive Connect, that might be something you could try out first, and especially with that 14-day free trial, getting into your org, seeing how you like it, and going from there.
Question is asked, and I think this relates. The question I'm about to ask here, I think we gave one way of answering it, which was the emailing from a record. Okay. So keeping that in mind, the question was asked, sometimes applicants don't provide all statements. When we see additional accounts and statements that were not provided, we have to request the specific accounts not provided. What are some ways we can do that? Right. So one of those obviously could be just manually seeing it, writing an email. Zoe, or George, are there other ways that you could think about that might be less manual or whatever in terms of that?
I feel like the Parse Connect that you're working on, George, is going to answer a lot of those, being able to look at those documents and see what's inside of them, and then collect that as information in Salesforce that can be compared to each other. So then you're saying, here's all my statements. What are the dates of those statements? Or what account is that a statement for? Be able to look at it that way.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that we're envisioning and have been prototyping. And I'm really excited about the idea that people can upload a set of documents like you're describing, and then the AI can go read each one of those, determine what's there, what might be missing, and then you could even drive automations off of that, perhaps sending an email to somebody and saying like, hey, it appears we didn't get this. Can you please provide this? And just kind of taking the human out of that step in the process.
Yeah.
And what about if there's just a document altogether that's missing? Like going back to that question saying before, when looking at like a specific document like August to September Chase Bank statement, let's say it's not something inside a document, but it's the thing itself. Yeah, so again, you could always just see it in a checklist, and if it's not checked off, you could write an email from the contact record. Are there any other ways that you might think about approaching that?
I would think about automation, like having checkpoints in the back end that would say, let's evaluate this record and see what's missing, and then automate that message that says, here's what you're missing to move your application forward. And then that would be a matter of making sure that when you're setting up that upload or what the files are named, that can be automated enough so the system can review that and say, this is what is missing. That would be a really cool problem to solve, honestly.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's room there for Parse Connect to solve that type of a problem. Like if you had a series of checklists on your application object saying these are the documents that we need, and then Parse Connect is able to identify like what type of document this is, what the dates are on it, and then it could kick off a flow in the background to go ahead and check off those boxes. And then, if an application is created and certain things aren't there, then that could trigger an email going out to someone once again.
Thank you. Another question is, can we have multiple applications going at the same time? Multiple properties or for home ownership and home repairs? Often there are different document requirements, for those.
Yes. My consultant brain is going, we would need to make sure that it's very clear that the end user knows, like if you're going to use the experience site that we set up, that they know what links are going where. And that would be honestly, an argument to look at, having an Experience Cloud site that is authenticated, where people are logging in and managing their overall system there. Kind of a separate conversation, right? But yes, you could have multiple applications running, and even different requirements for those applications, depending on how they're set up. If you're doing like a home repair record versus a home ownership application. But it would just be making sure that they know which form to use or which place to enter in that information so that it goes to the right place.
And I think the only thing I would add to that is, when I heard that question, the first thing that came to my mind is record types, right? So you could still have a single application object, but then you might have different record types representing those different kinds of applications. So when you looked at it, it would have the different set of fields that might be specific to that application type.
Yeah, and I'll also say this is a good example where this is a good place where you'd also want to bring the person in who is in charge of your file management strategy and folder management and your Salesforce. Get in the room together to make sure that those things are aligned, right? And that's a good thing, right? You want those people in the room talking to each other. Sometimes those conversations aren't easy, but that's actually why they're so important, right? To make sure that the way that you're organizing information in your CRM aligns with and complements the way that you're storing information in your shared folders, and vice versa. So.
One exciting thing that makes me think about is seeing more and more, which is awesome, clients having data retention and purge policies that are defined. And I think having a system like this introduces the ability to track those dates more, I don't know, cleanly, and then you can actually like run reports in Salesforce of what needs to be purged based off of the data that we have collected. So fun stuff.
That's good.
All right. Any other question? New question. Here we go. So, question being asked here, and there's no vetting. I'm reading this along with everyone here. We move an applicant's parent folder containing all of that applicant's files / subfolders to a different location in SharePoint once they are accepted into our program. It is still within the same SharePoint library, but moved to a different top-level folder, current home buyers instead of applicants. We do this so staff who may not have access to Salesforce, but sometimes need access to a homebuyer's file, can easily differentiate which folders in SharePoint are currently in our program and which are still in the application phase. I'm wondering if it might be possible to automate that in Salesforce or ShareConnect. Example, if an applicant is officially accepted to the program, their folder or file is moved to a different top-level folder in SharePoint. I wish I planted this question because I know the answer to it and I'm excited for you guys to say.
George, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So this has come up a lot, and we actually built this capability into Share Connect and Drive Connect with our automate drive action is what it's called with Drive Connect and SharePoint's automate SharePoint action. And so there's a couple things you can do within Flow. The obvious ones we've been talking about are create a folder, create subfolders. But some of the ones that we've built in to help drive these types of processes exactly are things like change the name of the folder. Zoe pointed that one out in her demo, or to actually move a folder to another folder, another parent folder, I should say specifically. And so you could go create a flow within Salesforce, right? A record triggered flow that says, if the status of this record changes to approved, then fire this flow. And then you could set our action in that flow to say, move this folder to this new parent folder. And that's very straightforward and simple thing to do, and it's definitely possible.
Yeah. One thing I'll just add to that is I will just speak to the experience as an Appiphony user. Our Google Drive has become so much cleaner. So I'm director of sales. So when I create a new opportunity, as soon as I create a new lead inside of Salesforce, it creates a folder for that account in our prospects folder. Also creates a already created document, like templated for a first discovery call, which is outstanding. If that person then that account ends up signing a contract with us, as soon as I hit closed one in Salesforce, as soon as I click that, it goes into Google Drive and moves that whole folder into our client's drive. And if I click close lost, because they did not sign with us, it will do the same thing, but it'll move that into our archive folder. So now, and that's just a really simple example of how, by just doing my work inside Salesforce, I'm actually keeping our Google Drive clean and well organized and up to date. It's truly one of my favorite things because, again, it's a way of using Salesforce to make better use of our Google Drive. So, George, I think this question probably starts with you, but it might also bounce over to Zoe. The question is, I understand that the product from Appiphony is out of the box. Sounds like some components, such as document request process and automated system review, may require additional customization. Can you confirm if these enhancements would incur additional costs or not?
I think what you're describing there are actual processes around the application or Salesforce record itself. And that's the type of thing that I think you would work with a partner like an Arkus to both define what are the right business processes you're looking to build around this application, and then work with them to actually go implement and execute that. So it's less of a product feature related to Drive Connect and Share Connect, and more about working with someone like Arkus to implement that appropriately.
And I feel like the other question there was around licensing for Drive Connect or Share Connect, maybe.
Yeah, and I think what
And
George
so,
is saying is it doesn't affect that. It doesn't affect the licensing, and a lot of these customizations, just like with Salesforce, basic customizations to like the objects and fields. There's no George. If I can paraphrase, the things that we're talking about here do not require any kind of like license upgrade from
no,
your side.
Mhm.
yeah, and just to touch on licensing for a moment, it's user-based licensing, and to use Drive Connect or Share Connect, we try to keep it very simple. It's $12 per user per month, and then the 25% discount then gets applied to that.
And that 25% discount, George, I assume that's your nonprofit discount.
So that's our nonprofit discount. Yes, yeah, I should be clear about that. Yep.
Great.
Curious with that, is it possible to run an org where there are a handful of approved Share Connect or Drive Connect users, but then other users aren't using it, and you're only paying for the people who have access to that visibility?
Yeah, the best way to think about it is that we have the component that Zoe showed during the demo. If users are going to be able to see and interact that component, you need to have a license to use the application, much like any other types of capabilities within Salesforce that are tied to a specific user license. So we always try to align with Salesforce as much as we possible can, because that's what people understand, and it just makes everything simpler for everyone.
Great. And of course, I think the caveat there is, if only some of your users have Drive Connect or SharePoint Connect, you might create some jealousy among the non-users because life is just a little bit better. So just that caveat there. But I think that's really important when there's just different people using Salesforce for different reasons, right? So if Drive Connect here or SharePoint Connect, if really what's driving the value there is the home application process, then it's really the homeowner support team that really should be in there. Maybe the fundraising team, if they're using fundraising in there, maybe that's important and that can be considered for future use. But what George is, I think, speaking to here is we can really approach this and make sure, it's not an all or nothing proposition, and that we can move from, really defining the value on a team to team level as we grow the value of the offering across the organization. So,
and
I feel like,
one other point I wanted to make is SharePoint or Share Connect and Drive Connect are creating those folders, in either Google Drive or SharePoint, like we talked about, and making sure that those files get there. So for those users that aren't even in Salesforce, they get to benefit from that. When they go into those systems and start looking through the folder hierarchy or go searching for those documents, they're now going to be there by virtue of that. And they don't need any license whatsoever. They just need access to SharePoint or Google Drive.
Great. Great clarification there. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, with this tool, it's a really good use of that crawl, walk, run method of get it into the system, see it working, and then pick a use case that you want to develop. Like we want to have automated folders. We want those folders to have, these namings and things, and kind of taking it step by step will enable you to, grow at the rate that you're comfortable with and what your business processes are defined for. Because, it's going to, like Andrew was saying, you got to get everyone in a room and talking about it. But you'll be able to see benefits right from the get-go of connecting things and, single pane, I think is a word I've heard for that. So.
Great. Well, I think that will conclude our Q&A. And as we're wrapping up here, thank you all for your questions. These are great questions. These are great conversations. There's no reason for the conversation to stop now. We are going to be available and around at Dreamforce in just about 5 or 6 weeks from now. Also, I would say, I probably talk to 2 to 4 Habitat affiliates per week, probably. Constantly talking about how to, drive more value out of Salesforce for these housing organizations. So you can certainly be in contact with us about that. if you don't want to wait until Dreamforce. Also, everyone here should know, if you're working for a nonprofit, Dreamforce registration cost is only $299. So come and stop on by. Me and George will be there. Zoe, will you be at Dreamforce? Yes, no?
Not this year.
Okay,
But
well,
in the
you'll
middle.
have to, all right, you'll have to settle for me and George then, who put together might have Zoe's charm combined. So,
Maybe.
maybe on a good day.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for attending. After this webinar, you're going to get a survey asking for your feedback. And your feedback really is a gift. It allows us to hone our messaging, to provide you with the best possible experience. And also in line with our green initiatives here at Arkus, we're going to be planting 5 trees for each survey completed to show our appreciation for your time. So when you get that survey, don't just think to yourself, is this worth my time? Think, is this worth planting 5 trees? Because we're going to do it for you. We're also going to be sending an email shortly, which is going to have a link to this recording. So if you want to, now that you're all excited about what Appiphony can do for you, you can show this to, to your boss or to your board or to whoever. You can also visit our website, where we have a ton of blogs and lots of content about Salesforce, our experience. George, what's the Appiphony website?
It is just our name, Appiphony, APPIPHONY.com. And yep, pretty straightforward.
So, yep. So you can also just go to the Appiphony website to be in contact with them directly. Again, our emails here are pinned in the chat. I want to thank you all so much and wish you all a wonderful day. And I hope that you have enjoyed this time here as we've talked about how you can build more and click less. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.